here we are. Okay, I'm not gonna start with a Yushikage Kira creepypasta this time. Not sure how to start, I guess. Oh, disclaimers. Okay, let's start with disclaimers. This is a presentation for next Wednesday in university. I have a class called electronic music, and yeah, one of my presentations, or like my main presentation in that course, is going to be on electrophones. And I usually like to practice practice doing the thing, like doing the presentation on stream, and I can check how long it actually takes for me to like do this presentation, because I have a time limit of 1.5 hours. So I have to make sure that I'm not over the time. Like I can be below the time, but not over it. And when I tried it yesterday actually, I was 15 minutes over the time limit, so I'm going to try to shorten it down a little bit. So yeah, and it's going to be a bit interactive. So I hope you'll comment lots. Oh, hi June, what's up? What's an electrophone? Can I eat it? You will find out shortly. Yeah, it is quite long. Like some professors are like the presentation only has to be like 20 minutes long. Other professors are like you can have the full time. And the thing is that like I said yesterday, it was actually 1 hour and 45 minutes long. So I'm actually over the time because I have way too much to tell, but I'm trying to shorten it down. Okay, I think I actually need to set up a timer in another tab, because I need to know how long this presentation is going to take. Let's see. I also need to open the chat on my phone because I'll need both screens. Okay. I hope you're ready for some dank memes. I mean dank electrophone presentations. Oh, hi Marco. What's up? Haven't heard from you in a while. Okay. So usually my order of how I'd talk about the electrophones in the presentation would look like this. First presenting explaining what electrophones are. Oh nice, Alfred. You can put your German into practice. So yeah, what are electrophones, and then name a couple of electrophones and show a few example music pieces. But that's not how we're gonna do it. I actually found out that you can paint. There we go. Okay, we're gonna actually move the question what electrophones are to the very end of the presentation, because it's actually not that easy to explain or to grasp what electrophones are, because, well, you're going to find out. But what we can do first is actually make a theory about what electrophones might be. So I'm actually going to, in the actual presentation, I'm going to be like, okay, here's the we're going to gather words on the blackboard and set up some associations what they think what electrophones might be. So I'm not gonna draw a dick. So yeah, actually, we're gonna do that now. So you have 5 minutes. Like in 5 minutes, I'm gonna stop this. Like I have 5 minutes planned. Maybe it's gonna be shorter. But yeah, tell me, what do you think could an electrophone be? Like you can orient on the name electrophone, or maybe you might know the instrument Theremin. I'm not sure if you know the other ones. What do you think could be associated with electrophones? Didn't see nothing. Electro and phone. Oh, that's interesting. I can actually write here. So actually I'm gonna try to do this. Smartphone. Phone beeps. And Suicide Boys. Oh boy, writing with a mouse is really hard. Okay, there we go. Electrical instrument. Let's see. That's Alfred's guess. I guess it's the more serious guess than a smartphone. But okay, that makes sense. Okay, we got a few things down. I guess the thing is like the good thing about doing it on a blackboard during the real deal on Wednesday is that it's gonna stay up because we're gonna actually get back to this. I guess I can just like scroll the slides back, then we can look back at this and be like, yeah, this is correct or this isn't correct and stuff. Like I guess the thing is we're going to look at electrophones, and after we've looked at electrophones, we're going to again theorize what electrophones might be now that we know some example electrophones, and that then I'm going to explain what electrophones actually might be. Data sonification. Notepad. I should actually put it in Notepad. You are correct. Okay. Data sonification. Okay. Should probably slide this over here. There we go. Okay. Oops, I don't need to save it. Smartphone, Suicide Boys, phone beeps, electronic instrument. Data sonification. Let me check. Time. You have 10 seconds. Oh no. Okay. I think we have some really nice like spots here. I guess the thing is we have like 10 people in class, so it's going to maybe we'll get more thingies here, or like 15 people, not 10. So we are just 4 people here. So yeah, though I really hope that they do like do the thing at all. Like give examples what they think electrophones might be. Herr Marco, mir geht's gut. Hofft ihr auch. Okay, one thing I have to mention is that I can't actually explain the physics behind it because I suck at physics. It was one of my worst subjects, almost as bad as French. And so I won't be able to explain anything physically about it, how it actually works, like the full electrophysics spectrum stuff. But if you know physics, then you can just Google the names of these electrophones. Oh, let me use my mouse. Of these instruments, and you can easily find explanation videos on how they work. I've watched those videos, didn't understand a single word, so yeah, I've given up on trying to explain the physical side of this, but you can. If you can check it out if you want to. We are gonna concentrate on the sound actually and on the music. So yeah, and the order is pretty much like some of the youngest instruments to like the older electrophone instruments. Okay. Like I said, the text is gonna be in German because the presentation is going to be in German, but I'm going to translate everything here. Okay, je compatis. Oh god. I have a trauma from French class. Okay, so we're going to start with the Dynamophone. It's not actually the first electrophone. There was the light harp. I think, no, electric light bow, I think. That's what it was called. Let me actually look it up real quick. It was the singing light bow. There we go. At least that's the German name directly translated to English. The Dynamophone came pretty much after that. Like, it was the first big actual like electronic instrument that was like more like widely like known, I guess. It, like in the my source is actually the first actual instrument that's shown. It is an American invention. I'm going to mention the like where it was invented specifically because it's actually all the instruments that I'm going to show have been invented in different countries. So it's going to be quite a tour around the world. It was invented by Tadeusz Cahill in 1900, in the year 1900, and it was like set up in the Philharmonic Hall, New York in 1906. It's quite big. It has 12 generators, which like consist of like these. Actually, should put up a translator just in case I need words like right now. Cogs, gears, like 12 big gears pretty much, and each of them is responsible for one sound, like one note. But on top of that, they can also generate like extra overtones, like the C generator can make the C's from the contour C up to C3, and the big G, uppercase G, and G2. So these are all the notes that it can produce pretty much. And you can get different like sounds colors by combining these overtones in different ways. And that's how it looked like pretty big. So yeah, the thing is, like at first, I should probably mention it actually had multiple manuals. It kind of looked like an organ. And yeah, you can change the color just like in organs. Wonder why I need that many generators. You need 12, one for each tone pretty much. So you have from C up to B, you have 12 notes. So this way you can actually form the whole like semitone scale. So you needed those 12 generators, one for each tone. And at first it was actually played like daily. There were daily concerts. The sound was transferred through the telephone cables, so everyone could like listen to the music on their telephone, and they could like change the volume for themselves without like affecting the other telephones. So each generators make different sounds, but it wastes lots of energy. Exactly, that's the problem. Like it was, like I said, there were daily concerts at first, but the thing is that it costs a lot of money. It hindered the telephone like service, the telephone traffic, and it didn't really sound that great. So just in a few years it was actually discontinued, discommissioned pretty much, and we don't really have any recordings of it. So that's why I can't actually show you anything being played on this instrument, but it's different for the other instruments, fortunately. So let's get to one of the other instruments. Let's see. I'm pretty sure this video is going to get demonetized anyways, but I'm not making much money off these streams anyhow. Oops, sorry. Okay. I should probably have given a flashing warning. I forgot. I hope no one has epilepsy here. Yeah. You probably know this instrument. Let me show it again. There we go. Let's get a good view. There it is. Probably one of the most well-known electrophones. The Theremin. This was the band Hairs, Hairs, but not as in like hair on your head, but as in the ones who get the money when the parent dies, I guess, or like the one who inherits. There we go. And this track is called Hunters. It's a post-rock band, which is why there are no vocals, and it actually has an interesting other connection to it, like to vocals, this instrument. But we're gonna get to that in a bit. This is the Theremin, or as it was actually called, the Electrophones. It was made by the Russian inventor Leon Theremin. And yeah, later on it was called after him. Yeah, here's exactly like that, exactly like Alfred wrote it. So yeah, when I'm going to call it a Electrophone when I talk about the instrument, and say Theremin when I mean the actual person, Leon Theremin. So, or at least I'm gonna try to remember to do that, so that you don't get confused. In the year 1921, it was presented at the 8th All-Soviet Electronic Congress, and pretty much has like two components that control the music. It has one antenna on the right here, which controls the tone height. So if you get closer to that antenna, the note gets higher. If you go further away from it, it gets lower. And there's the second component, another antenna, which is more like roundish. If you get closer to it, the sound gets quieter. When you go farther away from it, it gets louder. So you need these two components to like create the sound. It was actually used in quite a few compositions as well, like Josef Schillinger, we're going to listen to a piece from him later on, wrote an airphonic suite for theremin and orchestra. Then Bohuslav Martinů composed in the year 1944 with a, like as a tribute to a like famous Electrophones interpreter, like a player, a famous Electrophones player. He made for her a concert for a Electrophones and orchestra, so just to name a few. And in the 1960s, he had a bit of a revival when rock bands actually picked this instrument up. So it is being used in popular music, like you could just hear in the song by the band Hairs. Airs. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Should probably look it up. But yeah, we can actually look at the inventor himself playing this instrument real quick.
Электромузыкальный инструмент Theremin Vox – это первый инструмент такого типа. Это песенно-голосовой инструмент. В нем управление мелодией достигается посредством движения руки и пальцев рук в зависимости от исполняемой мелодии. Без прикосновения к чему бы то ни было, посредством влияния на электромагнитное поле около инструмента.
The sound is a bit quiet, unfortunately, for most of these examples. Okay, so you might have to turn your volume up a bit. There we go. My volume is always up to hear your beautiful voice. Thank you, Alfred. Okay. So that was the inventor himself playing the theremin. Oops. The Electrophone. That was Theremin playing the Electrophone. There we go. Okay. This actually. Yeah, okay. Let's move on to the next one. Then I'm gonna say what was gonna say about the like what he said, because it's actually interesting. So we have another example here, a short one by Josef Schillinger. He actually worked a lot with Theremin himself. Like he was a Russian composer, and they actually like invented or made a instrument together, their Rhythmicon, which we are not going to look at, but it's interesting to note that they worked together like that. And he composed this piece, De Vocalist. Maybe you can pronounce it better, June, or you can correct my pronunciation. But I'm like never sure if it's De Vocalist or De Vocalist. but I think it's the latter. And it was presented in 1926. It was the first time it was played. And it has it was played at the time with a theremin. It was actually played by Leon Theremin himself during that first presentation of the piece. I'm wondering, where does the sound come out? It actually has to be plugged into a speaker. I think this is a speaker, I believe. It was plugged into this, and then the sound came out through that speaker. I don't think you can see a speaker here, but there has to be one standing somewhere. The first one, De Vocalist. Okay, thanks. So, and the interesting thing is, like, you might not know what a vocalist is, but I'm actually going to ask them, since it's a musical term. Vocalist is a etude for, etude means like a practice piece for vocalists. So this was actually written for vocalists, but it was still performed the first time with a theremin. And he actually said, like Leon Theremin himself. Let's see.
Инструмент термин инструмент управления посредством цифр и мелодий. Управление голосовой инструмент.
There we go. It's an instrument of a singing voice kind. So he actually compares it to a singer. So this is like, you could almost see it as like an alternative to a singer. And it's interesting to note that it actually replaced a singer during the first presentation of this piece by Josef Schillinger. Okay, let's listen to it. There we go. I guess it's interesting to note that he doesn't really move his whole hand, but just extends his fingers. Let's see. So that's a common playing technique for the theremin, that instead of like moving your whole hand, you just move your fingers. I think you can make a mysterious UFO sound out of this instrument. Yeah, I think, yeah. Like it was used in many sci-fi movies, actually, like many of these electrophones. Sounds like the 506 vocals on the SNES. Yeah, again, a parallel to vocals. Let's move on to the next instrument, though. There are lots more of interesting instruments to see. That was Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead on the Ondes Martenot. This is what we are going to talk about, the Ondes Martenot. So this one was invented in 1928. It was invented by someone in France, by Maurice Martenot. So it's named after himself. And it was shown at the Paris Opera for the first time. You can actually see it here. Like, it's actually... Is that my homie Tom York? Yep, that was Tom York. It's copyright strike time. Atmospheric. So it's actually similar to the Theremin in like playing, like how it is played, because you have again two components. You have this metal ring that's like going through this metal string or metal strip, and the further right you go, the metal strip, the higher the tone gets, like pretty much according to this this manual, this claviature, like this thingy. So, and this let me actually look it up so that I can say it properly. And before it's just claviature. Keys, claviature, yeah. It's actually a rare to say claviature. Usually say keys. Okay. So you can see these keys, they were actually not in use. They were just there so you could see where the note is that you're currently playing on this metal string. But later on it became playable, and the string only became useful for, or was only used for legato or glissando passages or parts, while the keys were actually used for more difficult, more technically difficult parts where you have to be more accurate or where you have to play rather fast. So this is the first component, the one where you play the melody, and then the second, just like in the Theremin, where you control the volume of the sound or the dynamics. So there's this yellow button, and if you press on it, like if you press hard on it, the tone gets louder. If you press not as hard on it, it is quieter. And you can, of course, again, like it was with the Dynamophone, you can change the tone color. This time by like pressing the buttons here. So yeah, that's what these are for. And then there's this, like on the right picture. In the right picture, you can see this thingy. Let's see. Actually need that port later on anyways. Loudspeaker, exactly. It's a multifunction instrument. Depends on what you mean with multifunction. It has different sounds, I guess, but so does the organ, for example. Or do you mean like in the different functions of like having this the keys and the this string for the legato playing? But yeah, I guess in that way, yes, you can play legato passages with it, or like play like technical quick stuff. But it has its own unique sound, so it's actually like an instrument in itself. You can't really say that it copies instruments. We can actually look at this in action a bit better. Like it's actually seen better how it works here, and the performer switches between the legato playing and the actual the keys. So this was an improvisation, but we're going to listen to an actual piece in a bit. Should have forgot. No, okay. Or no, okay, I got it. I thought I forgot something. Okay, no, it's all good. Sounds pretty sick. Yeah, it does. So to get back to your questions, the string and key thing, it actually, like, as we will see in a second, they can be, or no, I'm not actually sure if we're gonna see that, but yeah, they can, both of those things can be used in one. Like you can be like, I'm gonna play this part legato and I'm gonna switch to, like, in the middle of this, switch to the keys. So it's actually like its own playing technique thing. Okay, I'm actually stumbling up over my own words. Let's actually just move on to the example. This is a piece that was composed in 1937 for another French thing. So correct me if I'm wrong. L'Exposition universelle. Oof, my R is terrible. L'Exposition universelle de 1937 à Paris. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. The years. Like I said, French was my worst subject ever. This is... She doesn't say what this is. But this piece is called... well, the German name is Fester schön Gewässer. Let me actually pull this up first. Oof. It was a piece by Olivier Messiaen, I think. It is called Fête de Belles Eaux, which means pretty much like the fête, I guess, party, if you want to, like I have the German translation here, but not the English one. Like party of the beautiful waters. So yeah, we're going to listen to part of it, and I'm going to like point out a few things that are pretty interesting to see, because like this actually shows what the Ondes Martenot can do. Yeah, this was for 6 Ondes Martenot. And it's pretty quiet, so yeah, you might have to turn it up. maybe this is a good place to pause. I hope you had the chance to turn down your volume. As you can see, it can actually play. It has a pretty big range. Like a piano has a pretty big range too, but as opposed to a piano, this can actually hold notes. Like it's not just bing, and then it's done. It's actually like a violin. Like even a cello doesn't have such a big range. Like it can actually play the deep, for example. And you can see these jumps, which are pretty big, which can be hard to play on a normal instrument that can actually hold the note like this. Then you have these swells. Like this instrument can play pianissimo up to forte, up to triple forte. Like it has a pretty big dynamic range. And can actually play fast passages too. Like can play these slow parts and these fast parts. Okay, let's continue on. Stop. Okay. So yeah, you can actually see that they show off a lot of articulation there. Like there's this forzato, there's a staccato, there's a legato. Pretty much everything you might need. Let's see, there's staccato, there's legato. So it can actually play a lot of different articulations. This is the instrument they used back then on horror movies. I actually have an example. Like the next instrument is especially going to be like the staple of like horror and sci-fi movie music. But yes, I'm not sure if this particular instrument was used, but I could imagine it. Like the theremin as well is like the stereotypical alien instrument. So like I can imagine, like especially electrophones being used for sci-fi and horror because it has such an unnatural sound, which can be scary. Okay, oh, by the way, here we have a pretty big swell from triple piano to forte, so this is pretty interesting as well, right at the beginning. We're going to listen to a few more minutes of this, like up until the next part. And there we go. So yeah, as Alfred said, this instrument can make fast changing and wild sounds. So yeah, this part was pretty fast, and you could hear how well it can play the staccato and play fast and stuff, so it's not a slow instrument by any means. So yeah, no worries, the next big example is going to be more easy to listen to. Like this is a bit too, even for my taste, it's a bit too modern. But yeah, and extra for June, I disabled autoplay. Sounds like the music that plays in my head when I exit the supermarket with 12 unopened soda cans in my coat. Well, it would be a problem if the soda cans were opened, but oof. Okay. Let's move on to the next example. Close. This is all like I have one more example for the Ondes Martenot. You can use this for old cartoons. This actually really sounds like old cartoon music. But yeah, I have one more example. Jean d'Arc au Boucher. That's how I pronounce this correctly. It's like Joanne d'Arc on the how to translate this, on the pyre, on the stake, on the funeral pyre, on the bonfire, on the stake, I guess. Yeah, I guess Jean d'Arc on the stake, pretty much, as in like on the fire stake where they burnt witches. Like Jean d'Arc wasn't, I don't think she was regarded as a witch as far as I remember, but this is a German oratorium with elf scenes. It was written by Paul Claudel, but most importantly for us is that the music was written by Arthur Honegger. It had the first like concert presentation, or like it was played the pyre. Okay, got it. Thanks. It was played in a concert for the first time, like in a concert setting for the first time on May 12th, 1938, in Basel, and it had a scenic premiere on June 13th, 1942 in Zurich. So yeah, it like at first it had just a music presentation, and then later on it had like people doing actual like a play, setting up a play. So yeah, I guess pyre or stake. I think the stake sounds a bit more correct, kind of, but I'm not sure. So yeah, Joanne is on her way to heaven, but then the like voices on earth are like, no, she has to go in front of the animal council or the animal judges, and she then is let's see, she is convicted by that animal council and is then sentenced to burn at the stake. So yeah, that's the like pretty short bridge. Well, the static premiere mean they burned a real person on the stage? I don't think so, but they might have like put an actual person on a stake, like not put her through the stake, but like bond her to a stake, and then have her like to like be scenic fire, like fake fire, or like red like thingies, red these red scarf thingies, beater. But no, it wasn't an actual person. This was 1942, so I don't think they did that around the time. So yeah, that's just the gist of the story, and we are going to look at a few scenes, just a couple of like mini parts of this play to like see how the Ondes Martenot was actually used there. And I'm going to have to whip up the sheets for this real quick. There we go. So there's this long intro, but we are going to start at scene 1 at page 26. There we go, scene 1. You can actually already see the Ondes Martenot here, like it's part of the experience, part of the let's see, part of the score, part of the musical score. Okay, let's listen to what happens here at the beginning, after this commercial break, I guess. Okay, there we go. And that's it already. So it started like right here, like there was this thingy, this roll by the big drum. I think that's the big drum, at least. And the Ondes Martenot actually, well, it says that it doesn't play anything, but at the very beginning of this, we have a scenic like direction. A dog is heard howling in the night, and this, yeah, the cat would break. But yeah, speaking of cats, but this dog sound is actually made by the Ondes Martenot. Let's listen to it again. So it's kind of used like a sound effect. To make a sound effect, we can like remember that Electrophones being used for sound effects. We are actually gonna see this for the next instrument as well. But yeah, let's get to the next scene. I guess like the legato actually helps to make the sound like a proper dog howling. Like you could maybe use a violin for that, but I don't think it would sound quite as convincing as an Ondes Martenot. So let's see. Next scene, page 43. Oh, there we go. Okay. We are going to start over here, where Jean says, c'est vrai.
C'est vrai, je me souviens. Le feu qui brûle, cette fumée qui étouffe. Oh, comme cela fait mal. Prêtre de Jésus-Christ, c'est vrai que je faisais tant de mal. C'est vrai que vous la détestiez tellement, votre pauvre Jeanne.
That, at the very end, was the Ondes Martenot. And you can see here, it actually plays that sound, that wee sound the whole time, but it's only really heard well here. Or maybe the ones making the play didn't really use it until this part. But yeah, like it's interesting. It can actually make a perfect legato all the way from the D sharp, the like big uppercase D sharp, up until let's see, E4, so which is a really big range. I don't personally know any instrument that can do that. Just do it again. Like it was used for this like dramatic ending of this section, where it becomes like quieter again. Like it builds up, and then suddenly you have this Ondes Martenot like wee, like going ham. So yeah, this perfect legato of this Ondes Martenot is used here pretty effectively, in my opinion. Let's go to the last part, page 88. I think this part is her at the stake actually already. There you go, 88. So we're gonna have a bit of an introduction, and then the Ondes Martenot is gonna set in a few like seconds later. that was that part. So you can hear the Ondes Martenot actually play the melody that was played by the violins, kind of like without the whole middle step thingies. It actually uses here the glissando technique again, with the like just using the string and the metal ring. It has an alien sound to it. And actually, what's more interesting here is a line that is said later by Jean in this play. Like, it's actually, for some reason during the play, it's moved over here. But yeah, in the score, it's actually over here, and it says, "What is that dog that's howling in the night?" And then you hear the Ondes Martenot. So the Ondes Martenot pretty much stands for the dog, just like it was used at the very beginning of the, like at the in the first scene. And the answer to that, by the way, is that is no dog, that's Iblis in his despair, that's howling all alone in the depths of hell. Iblis, by the way, is, I believe, from the Quran, a kind of like the devil, like a person that's comparable to the devil in Christian mythology. So yeah, it's actually used for this howling, and this has a pretty dramatic effect. Like, I personally, when I heard this, I thought of aliens. You might have thought of aliens as well when you heard this being played by the Ondes Martenot. But yeah, it's used effectively for really dramatic scenes, or at least the scenes that I showed were rather dramatic, and the Ondes Martenot increased this dramatic effect. Okay, let's move on to the next instrument. Iblis means devil in Indonesia. I gotta remember that. Okay, I didn't know that. Like, I googled Iblis and I only found that it's like the devil, like equivalent in the Quran. I didn't know it was actually a word for that in Indonesian. Is like, what's the main religion in Indonesia? Is it what's it called? Muslim? Because then it would make sense that Iblis means devil in Indonesia. Okay. Let's get to the next example while I wait for the stream delay to catch up. Okay. Indonesia's religions are very diverse. Muslims are the majority, but I'm Christian. Islam, right. That was the word I was looking for. Okay. Muslims are the majority. Okay. So maybe that's where it came from. Like, Iblis being the main word for devil. Okay. Interesting. I've learned something new. So yeah, this time we don't have an example from popular music, from a rock band. This time it's actually from a movie. This was The Birds by Alfred Hitchcock. This film was released in 1963, 3 years after the famous Psycho, and it was like, here the instrument Trautonium was used for making these bird sounds, because the bird sounds don't sound totally natural. Like, I guess the thought behind this was to make it actually sound like aggressive birds, like unnaturally aggressive. I actually just realized you couldn't see the video. It is also an actual word used here, but we prefer using the word sedan instead. I see. And haikuseki. So you couldn't actually see this, but you could hear this, and this is the most important part. And I want to show the scene again anyways, so you can again hear the bird sounds. Like these bird sounds were made with an electrophone. These aren't like real bird sounds. So an electrophone, that was a bad sound. Yeah, I can see that. So yeah, it was actually used again to make a sound effect, like in Jean d'Arc. It was used for the like dog howling in the night. So yeah, I guess when this was made, it was actually already like a mixture Trautonium. Like as I mentioned, this was made with the Trautonium. The composer was Oskar Zala, though I guess in this case it was actually used more to make sound effects and less to make actual music. Like there's not that much actual music in that movie. But yeah, the composer Oskar Zala actually made like upgrade Trautonium more and more. So this wasn't like the pure Trautonium sound. This was actually made with like additional effects and stuff applied, like hardware effects, not like software, I believe. But yeah, it sounds a bit simplistic. We're going to listen to an example really soon. But yeah, this time the Trautonium was a German invention. It was made by Friedrich Trautwein, which is why it's called Trautonium, after his name. And it was presented in 1930 at the Berliner Festival Neue Musik, Berlin Festival of New or Contemporary Music. Hindemith, the composer Hindemith, made a few pieces for this presentation, which we're going to listen to. He made pieces for Trautonium Trio. It's actually pretty interesting since it was made for this presentation of the Trautonium, meaning that it's actually like there to, again, like a couple of the other pieces that I presented to show off what the Trautonium could do. You can actually like specifically hear what they wanted to show by like with this Trautonium with these pieces by Hindemith. There was also a concertino for Trautonium and string orchestra in 1931, again by Hindemith. And yeah, there were like a couple of different pieces made for the Trautonium, like more than a couple, multiple different pieces. There's also one for Trautonium and a full orchestra too. And the motivation behind making this Trautonium was that they didn't want to make an instrument that was like recorded with a microphone and then like that signal is then transferred to the loudspeakers. Like there's too much information getting lost there, like the quality is actually suffering. So they thought, okay, we want to make an instrument that sound is directly transferred to the radio. So they made this, and it was actually like oh, that's the wrong thing. I want to look up the word, like sponsored, I guess, or supported. Let me actually open this back up. It was supported by the like from academic side and from the industrial side. So yeah, they did have the support to make this a reality. And it is again, like it has again a metal string, which you will see in a bit again, but like you can see it really well here. It has metal string, and below that metal string is a metal strip. And if you press, like depending on whether you press on that string and that strip further right, you get a higher note, and when you press on that string further left, you get a lower note. If you press on the string harder, you get a louder note. And if you press not as hard on that string, you get a quieter note. So as opposed to the Ondes Martenot and the Theremin, you don't have two components. One to make, like, control the volume, and one to control the height of the note. You have both in one, meaning that you can play it actually with two hands, as you can see on this picture. And as you can hear in 1 second over here. you could see these knobs which are for changing the tone color again. And I guess this is a German video, so you don't have, I guess I don't have to worry about you watching it, but I suggest not watching further than that, because the next thing he says is that the Trautonium was the first electronic music instrument in the whole world, and we just saw 3 which came before that. So yeah, don't trust him. Don't trust his lies. And yeah, we are going now to listen to those pieces by Hindemith. And I need to look at the timer to see. Actually, yeah, I have about 23 minutes left, so it's actually not as close as I thought it would be. But I should probably still shorten it down. Like, this whole thing is 11 minutes long, like the whole thing. Like, these are 7 pieces in total, like 7 mini pieces. They are called Des kleinen Elektromusikers Lieblinge in German, which means the little electronic musicians' lovelies, I guess, pretty much. I have no idea what's going on, but hey, that seems cool. Well, you haven't missed the most important part yet, which is the explanation of what electrophones actually are, because we are looking at electrophones first, and then we are actually explaining what electrophones are. So yeah, these were the first pieces written for the Trautonium, and I guess you can see them as etudes, meaning they are there to show off what the instrument can do. I'm going to pause every now and then to talk about what each piece in particular showed off, which was interesting. Okay. And for June, I have to say about autoplay. Okay, here we go. Actually, it's cool this. I need to open up the sheets because I don't like the way these are written. Okay, sheets. And there we go. This is way cleaner. My right ear. Yeah, they panned them pretty hard. I'm not a fan of that, but I guess it gets the point across. So I can actually draw here. How do I reverse that drawing? Guess it's just there forever now. Can I actually not undo this? Oh no, I have a thing. Okay. So, this is less spacey, but it's more disturbing sounding. Yeah, it really does. There's a lot of chromatics going on here. Though the other pieces are going to be more pleasant, in my opinion. So, langsam stands for slow. You can see these legato bows, or these phrase bows, pretty much, rather, which are there to, make the player play legato, so it actually shows the legato function of this instrument. Like, it's a slow introduction. I guess it eases the listener in, pretty much. Reminds me of something. That weird question and answer piece about the universe or something. Forgot what it's called though. Well, if you remember, let me know. I'd love to listen to it. It sounds pretty interesting. Okay, let me look at my notes actually. Oh yeah, it actually also shows off the range. Like, this is all played by the same instrument. And you can see it actually starts, like, the lowest note is here, the B. No, it's actually the A. The C, D, C, B, A. Okay, yeah, that's the A. And you have an A flat here. So the range of this instrument is pretty big. Okay, let's continue on. Eases, more like putting me on the edge. Well, it depends, I guess, on the listener. Like, it was more, like, I'm more used to this, I guess, so it didn't sound as jarring to me as it might have to others. There we go. We'll miss you, June, our comrade in arms. Okay. It's not the time to be sad about the loss. You have to look into the future. Not a slow piece. Actually, the interesting part is here that they actually change between the tone colors. There you go. There are two tone colors. How to best translate them? Guess dull and sharp. Those are the two. This one's dull, this one's sharp. And yeah, we have the dull one at first, then it switches to the sharp one, which sounds a bit like a clarinet, in my opinion. And then the dull. There we go, the dull one again, which is more soothing, maybe, or more, could be seen as more ominous. Don't think I have any notes in particular for piece 3, but I guess the interesting here is again the dynamics, like pianissimo up all the way to fortissimo. Like, there's again a big range, or here in a short time, from pianissimo to from piano to fortissimo. So yeah, let's skip to piece 5 actually, because I need to conserve time. Let's see, piece 5. That's 3. That's 4. And here's piece 5. Okay. Over here. Here's where we're starting again. Sounds like a trombone. Yeah, it really does. Like the lower one, definitely. And I think if I wouldn't have known that this was played by a Trautonium, would have thought that the first voice is actually played by a clarinet. Okay. So this is actually like way faster. Like you have these parts with 64th, no, 32th, 32nd, like part pieces, and you have these staccatos here. So again, different articulations. Okay, you're here. Nice cadence to ease you in. So I think the most interesting parts are like these big jumps here. Like it sounds like a clarinet still to me. And before it was actually played by a clarinet in this recording. This would be awkward. No, it might, like I think it says here that it's actually played by Trautoniums. It was actually made under a mixed-or Trautonium, so it's not actually the original Trautonium, but it's about the sheets anyways. Imagine going to a dark castle from a cheerful forest. Yeah, really does sound like that. But yeah, okay, this part here, like there are really big jumps. Like you have a jump over 3 octaves high, over 2 octaves big. So this is pretty impressive. Like it's again pretty fast. I think that's mostly what I have to say about this. Let's check my notes. Yeah, it's pretty fast and still pretty precise. So it's pretty interesting that you can play something like this with this instrument. Okay. I imagine I'm not going to take quite as much time. Like I have 7 minutes left, but I imagine I will have a bit more time left because I won't be like struggling to find the words quite as much. Okay, so let's continue on. So it seems like I'm still good in time. Just have to remember to skip a few pieces here. There we go. Okay. Let's get back to our notes. Electrophones. So, anything you would like to add? Like, or like scratch, like, now that you've seen Trautoniums, gonna give 3 minutes. The countdown is going. The countdown has started. So the plan is like gathering like more input from the people, from the fellow students, like what they think electrophones might be now that they've actually seen electrophones. Like before that it was just like them guessing pretty much according to the name of the instrument category, and like them maybe knowing the instrument's Theremin. But in this case they've seen them, so they can guess what like make a better guess at what an electrophone might be. So do you have any input, any a new image what electrophones might be? Old instruments that use electricity. Used by hand, has wide and flexible range of tone. Okay. Ooh, that's quite a lot. No, I don't want to save. Quite a lot of new possibilities. That's pretty good. Okay, 40 seconds left. Oof. I guess that kind of corresponds to this one, just that old is a new pointer. Gonna put them together for now. Okay. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's continue on like the stream delay. So if anyone adds anything, I'll just add this to this thing. But for now, let's continue on. So now I'm going to present a few definitions of electrophones. The thing is that the term has changed over time, pretty much. 40 seconds, I play Risu Syndrome. No. Never. what are electrophones? So let's finally answer that question, or maybe we won't answer that question. You will just have to wait and find out. So in 1937, Francis William Galpin wrote a book called A Textbook of European Musical Instruments, and he added the category of electronic instruments, and he defined electronic instruments as such, or electrophones as such. Electronic instruments are electric vibrators, meaning instruments in which the sound waves are formed by oscillations set up in electric valves. With electric valves, he probably meant like these radio valves. So this does apply to, I guess, the instruments we've seen. Like the Theremin uses like radio, like the radio technology in general was like the main thing that started electronic music, and it also did for electrophones. So this is does sound like a valid definition. But let's move on to 1940 to Kurt Sachs. There's a system called the Hornbostel-Sachs system, which is a categorizing system of instruments. And he added a new category, electrophones. And he split them up, like electrophones, into 3 different categories, like 3 different kinds of electrophones. Instruments that are electronically, let me look it up. Electronically animated, excited, induced. So I guess as an example, pipe organs that have an electronic system. Like way back in the days, you had like people having to pump air through the organs, but like right now you have it all done electronically. Like you press a button, electrical signal goes to the pipe and opens the pipe, and then the air can flow through that pipe. So an electric, like a pipe, like an organ with an electronic system is by this definition an electrophone. Then you have electromechanical instruments whose notes are made mechanically, and then go through like electronic then are processed electronically. So for example, an e-guitar, like actually would have asked like at the end of the previous thing, like when we gathered the like new notes, I would have asked if they think that if electronic guitars are electrophones. And by this definition, by Kurt Sachs, they are, because you make the guitar sound mechanically with your hand, and the strings like vibrate mechanically, but then the signal is sent to a loudspeaker, and then like distorted, for example. So because the electronic guitar like is made to be played with a loudspeaker pretty much. It's not a normal guitar, even though it can be played as a normal guitar. Like that's a problem, but we're going to get to that. It's an electrophone like Tesla coil. I'm not sure. Let me look the Tesla coil up real quick. I guess there is a Tesla coil instrument, and I would say it is an electrophone. So yeah, and then the last one, instruments whose tone is actually made electronically, which is like Galpin's definition of electrophones. So like Theremins and stuff, where it's actually made in these radio valves. But then we have a bit of a newer definition by Herbert Eimert and Hans Ulrich, who said that electrophones are electronic instruments whose like tone is like it can be mechanically or electronically produced, but it has to like be like exit through a loudspeaker. So the loudspeaker is actually the central part. Like that's how they defined it in their book Das Lexikon der elektronischen Musik, or in English, the Lexicon of Electronic Music. So in this case, the loudspeaker is the central part. Like an instrument, an electrophone needs a loudspeaker. And you actually asked before, like how is the sound actually getting like how is it actually heard? How is it made? and it is actually it does usually exit through a loudspeaker. Like there was this one picture here, for example, the Ondes Martenot. Here's a loudspeaker that came with the instrument. Like you kind of did need a loudspeaker to hear the sound. So yeah, then there's the new Hornbossel sax system, which was like they took the Hornbossel sax system and then rewrote it, added new categories and stuff. It was the MIMO project. MIMO stands for Musical Instrument Museum Online, and they made in 2011 this like new system. But like, okay, I'm gonna quote it first. Electrophones are instruments that use materials generating acoustic sounds, mechanically driven signal sources, electronically stored data, or electronic circuitry to produce electrical signals that are passed to a loudspeaker to deliver sound. So again, a loudspeaker is the central part of this. Actually, the electronically stored data kind of sounds like this data sonification part that June mentioned. So yeah, but I guess the question is, okay, if I just put a microphone to a instrument and then the sound is like produced through a loudspeaker, like processed through a loudspeaker, does that make that instrument an electrophone all of a sudden, just because there's a microphone like next to that instrument? But they have actually like found a like something against that loophole. They say that unmodified acoustic instruments with attached microphones or pickups are still classed into the other groups. Like group 5 is electrophones, so they're grouped within groups 1 and 4 according to the primary source of the sound. So if you put a microphone to a ukulele, it is still a ukulele. It's still a chordophone and not an electrophone. But it's still kind of problematic, like to me at least. Like if you have an electric guitar and like remove the pickup system from it, like the system that lets it transfer the sound to a loudspeaker, is it then not an electrophone anymore? Like, is it still called an e-guitar? Like, or if the pickup system is broken, is it like just a broken e-guitar? Is it all of a sudden a normal guitar now? Or there are like acoustic guitars which have a pickup system inside of them. Are those electrophones now? Or is it like something different? Like it's a hard question to answer. Or if you build into, like, take an instrument, let's say a saxophone, and build a microphone into this saxophone, is it an electrophone now? So yeah, that's actually a difficult thing, because like in this case it's not like attached to the saxophone, but it's actually built into the saxophone. It's actually a modified acoustic instrument. So yeah, it's a hard question to answer. Down late, but hello. Hi Patrick. What's up? Yeah, we're kind of at the end of the presentation, but you can still like listen to it, like watch the recap and stuff. Well, they are still instruments nonetheless. That's true, they're instruments, but what kind of instruments? That's the question. That's why this classification exists. Like, is it still an aerophone, which is what a saxophone is, or is it now an electrophone if there's a microphone built in? That's the thing. Though they do have like more like extra stuff there. Let's actually pull up the MIMO thing. Okay, I have to go all the way to the top. Let's see if I can find it. Mimo 2011. Please. There we go. There it is. Okay, let's scroll all the way down to Electrophones. There we go, Electrophones. Like, there are way more than just the 3 categories that were present previously in the sax system. What would Electroboom's electric guitar be? Who's Electroboom? Oh wait, I know Electroboom actually. It's that Indian YouTuber. I mean, probably an electrophone. I don't know. Let's look at this video. Actually,
Hi,
I'm curious
how to make
now.
an electric guitar? Well, I don't know, but from the name of it, it's just a combination of guitar and electricity. Here's a simple one I made. Things are just attached to and one better than a guitar. It happen, although it's not too isolated. Fast.
I wanna hear it.
Passes through your wall and kill you.
Classic.
And make you jump. Though, I thought
Classic
I could share my
Electrophones.
artistic side with you.
So yeah, if it if it would work, it would be an electrophone, I'd say, since it's just an electric guitar, and it processes the signal electronically and then has to probably exit it through a loudspeaker. But yeah, the electrophones are actually like e-guitars are actually in a subcategory of electrophones. It's an electroacoustic chordophone. There you go. Or the electric violin is also an electroacoustic chordophone. Chordophone, by the way, is like a guitar, like it has strings, and you like well, do something with those strings. So yeah. They're like subcategories. So it's kind of a chordophone, but it's also like an electrophone. Things can get pretty confusing. And there's also there's also criticism from other people, like Margaret Kartomi wrote, like she's an ethnomusicologist. She wrote that instruments that don't actually produce sound by themselves like are disregarded in this system, Hornbostel sax system, the old one, and this one, because sax actually assumes that all, like, for a thing to be an instrument, it has to actually produce sound. Like, but yeah, in this new one, it actually is included, fortunately. Like, even software is included in as an electrophone. Like, software is an electrophone. And like, there's, for example, this instrument. It was like the Pulse. It's called Pulse. It was presented in a Kickstarter. I'm doing a Viva in like 2 weeks. What's a Viva? Don't think I've heard that one before. Okay, but yeah, it's this is an instrument that actually is plugged into the computer, and then you tell it what sounds it should play. Like, it doesn't produce sound by itself. It's actually really interesting. It didn't make it through the Kickstarter, like it wasn't funded, so it doesn't actually exist, but the trailer is still here. So Launchpad is electrophone. I mean, technically, it would be an electrophone, because I would argue that this, according to the definition of electrophones, is an electrophone. Like, you need loudspeaker to make this work, and you actually control sound with this. So MIDI controllers are technically also electrophones. And you could actually see like how he hovered his hand above the thing, like to control the height of the note. And he actually also did the thing where he like lifted his hand up, and it controlled the dynamics. Presentation where you analyze a piece of music. Oof. Okay, that sounds like quite a lot of work, but yeah, ganbatte, you got this. So yeah, this actually is like, in theory, it looks similar and functions similar to the Theremin. Like, you control sound with your hand without touching it. Like, you can also control the sound by touching it. So this would be an electrophone, even if it like is dependent on the like computer to feed it the sound or the sound samples. So yeah, it's like still difficult to, I would say, to like categorize, like to register what are electrophones. But if you had to decide on one definition, like, I guess you pretty much know that you don't know. Or I know that I don't know anything. But yeah, if you had to decide on one definition, I would suggest this one because it's the newest one. So you have pretty much everything that is then processed electronically through a loudspeaker. So, or is made for that. There's actually like an author of the article. The author of the article, the New Growth Dictionary of Musical Instruments, he wrote about what electrophones are, and then someone criticized him for including e-guitars. And he was like, I actually followed the Hornbostel sax system, this one, where e-guitars are included. But he also says in the same article that it's always dependent on the intent of the instrument. Like I said with the e-guitars, is it actually made to be used as an electrophone? Like, is it made to be processed electronically, like through a loudspeaker? Like, if I make a saxophone with a built-in microphone and just say, nah, it's not an electrophone, it's not meant to be an electrophone, then I guess other people could argue, no, it is, because it has a built-in microphone. But if I like never actually use it with a loudspeaker, or just say, okay, it's just for convenience sake, so I don't have to like attach a microphone to it, I could say, okay, it's not an electrophone, because it's not meant to only be played through a loudspeaker. It's just there for simplicity's sake, so I don't have to always carry a microphone with me. But if someone makes the same instrument with a built-in microphone, like a saxophone with a built-in microphone, and then says this is made to be, like, it's an e-saxophone, it's made to be played through a loudspeaker, then it would be an electrophone. So yeah, if you're in doubt, do like keep to this definition of what an electrophone is. Basically an instrument that produces sound that is then passed to a loudspeaker to then deliver sound. That's that. Let's look at the timer. Way over time, like 50 minutes over time. Should probably, in the presentation, I'll be like, probably save like 10 minutes in the presentation. Maybe I'll shorten down one of the pieces. Here's the timer, by the way. But yeah, I think I'll manage. So yeah, I might cut down a few things, or cut a few things short. Okay. Thanks a lot for listening. Hope you're content with this presentation. You can also look back at our definition. Use by hand. So yeah, you can, I guess, against the use by hand definition, we have the UI. I'm gonna show it off real quick. Let's see. Let's get Electrophones in here. I'm gonna answer that question about the mic in a second. I'm gonna show off the UE first. Electronic wind instrument. Yeah, here's a sound demo.
Hi, I'm Sean Freeman.
You mainly produce the sound through through wind, through your, it's an aerophone pretty much, electronic aerophone. You still need to use your hands, of course, to use the buttons, but the sound is initially kick-started by air. Is a mic an electrophone? This is actually a good question. I say no, because in this case, if you attach a microphone or something to an instrument, it's not an electrophone. So if you have a microphone and then you sing into it, your voice is the actual instrument, or you're the thingies, you know what I mean, the bands that make the sound. So yeah, that one's the instrument. The microphone isn't an instrument; it only picks up sound. It doesn't actually make the sound. You need something to make or kickstart the sound, or to control the sound, for it to be an instrument. So yeah, a microphone by itself isn't an instrument. It just picks up sound. It doesn't create or induce sound. Actually, doesn't animate sound. There we go. Doesn't animate, induce, or create sound. The flute that you use, is that also electrophone? Which flute do you mean? Do you mean the UE that I just showed? This one's an electrophone, I'd say. But yeah, I don't really use flutes. Or do you mean the breath controller? I guess it. This is a good question. I'm going to actually show you what I mean. Let me just get it out of here. I haven't used it in quite a while, and I will have to. I'm not sure if that's what you meant, but I have a thing here. Let's see. There we go. Now you can see me. I have this thing here, the breath controller. You blow into it, it controls the velocity and stuff of sound. The thing with this is it actually just controls the parameters. So it by itself wouldn't be an electrophone unless I modify it to play sound if I breathe into it. You could be okay, by itself it doesn't produce sound or kickstart sound or induce sound. But if I blow into this and say okay, if I tilt my head to the left, or like this, if I tilt this up, the tone gets higher, and if I tilt it down, it gets lower. I can reprogram it to do that probably. And if I blow into it, it controls the dynamic. In this case, it's similar to the Theremin actually. The tone height is controlled by how I tilt it, and the dynamics is controlled by how hard I blow into it. So in this case, it would become an electrophone. But as I use it now to just control parameters, to just control the velocity, it isn't, because it doesn't kickstart sound, or it doesn't induce sound, or kind of create sound. But if I do reprogram it to actually make sound, to edit the tone height by doing this without having to press any keys on my keyboard, then it would become an electrophone. But breath control is code for face cam now. Oh god, no. The only instrument that makes Tim also pass out. Yeah, it's really, you have to blow really hard into it. Like it's really, like I probably have to like adjust the sensitivity. Okay. So yeah, a few extra questions. During the presentation, we'll probably not have that much time for questions. But I mean, like less presentation. I was actually like, oh no, I have to, like we won't have any time at all. Like the last presentation in that course where I presented like the first presentation ever, like the first presentation stream on this channel actually, where I talked about game engines and audio middleware, like Fmod, Wise, and so on. And it was like, oh god, the time is gonna get, like, I won't have enough time. And at the end, I had like still over 10 minutes left. So I'll probably be fine, even if we kind of were 15 minutes over the time limit. Since one of the things was that I had to look up words every now and then, and I had to think about, like I had to translate in my head. And so yeah, I think I'll be fine with this. Do you have any feedback? Was there anything that was too hard to understand, or was there anything that needed more examples, or did I need to mention anything in particular? Oh god, this abomination. There you go. Flashback. Okay. So, from what we answered before in the notepad, which one is correct and why it's not correct? Well, an Electrophone isn't a smartphone. It can be a smartphone. Like if you use a smartphone to make music, then yeah, it kind of would be. But the smartphone by itself isn't an Electrophone. A smartphone can be used as an Electrophone. If you have a gyroscope in it. First stream was five months ago. God, this was like, it feels like it was forever ago. But yeah, if you like the smartphone, like most smartphones have a gyroscope, and if you use the gyroscope to control the sound, like tilting it up and down and stuff to increase the height of the note and stuff, then it kind of becomes an Electrophone. Suicide Boys phone beeps, I have no idea what that's supposed to mean. But June isn't here, so they can't explain it, unfortunately. Electronic instrument, kind of, yeah. Old instrument that use electricity. It's not old. Like, we have modern electrophones here too, like the Pulse that we've seen in the Kickstarter. Like, I can't remember when the Kickstarter was, but it was not decades ago. Data certification can be part of it. Like we've seen in the MIMO thing. Like I've actually shown that here. Like electronically stored data. Or anything that produces electrical signals is actually like part of it. So the data certification is part of it. Used by hand, I guess you don't have to. Like in most cases it was used by hand, but in like my example, with the breath controller, you don't only have to use hands. Like in the case of the breath controller, like the example, if I would have modified it, I could use just my head and my breath to control it. Like just tilting the head and breathing into it would be enough already. So I guess this is a requirement. Not every Electrophone has to be controlled by hand. Has wide and flexible range of tone. Doesn't have to, but in many cases it did have in history, like as we have seen. Because the thing is that composers started to actually experiment with during that era, during the electronic music era, started to experiment with the ambitus of notes, like the how far high up notes can go and how far down they can go. Because the thing is, if you have electronically processed music, you can, or instruments or sound, you can like pitch it up way higher than like a piano can play, or way higher than a flute can play. So, or way lower too. So it's actually like a thing of that era in general. So it does make sense that electrophones do have a wide and flexible range, because that was just a mindset back then. You wanna do things with electricity that we couldn't do before. Like before electricity, they couldn't. Like there was they either had to build really big instruments to get really low, or like, well, in the case of like high instruments, I'm not sure, that I guess really short flutes. But this actually made it easier to have like instruments that could actually go far down and very high up in one swing, like without having to change instruments. So yeah, that too. Oof. Okay, to our presentation. Okay, any more questions? Getting kind of hungry. Oof. Programs. Please, you're too late. Stream is already over. Tesla coil is still electrophone. I mean, technically, yeah, since the sound is like electronically processed and the sound is delivered to a loudspeaker. I don't think the coil actually produces sound without a loudspeaker. Let's see. The coil. Oh, the coil doesn't use a speaker. Are you sure? Let's see. Music. Singing Tesla coil. The coil cannot function as a loudspeaker, reproducing complex music or voice sounds. So output is controlled by a keyboard or MIDI file. So I guess apparently it does need a speaker. Does it? Or does it not? Let me actually pull this up over here so you can read along. Well, it says it produces musical tones. I can't remember what this electrophone is called. It's like a meme instrument. It looks like a mini sax with mouth on the end. Dude, if you remember what it is, you have to tell me. That sounds really awesome. Because it kind of let's see, what was it? Seeing Tesla coil. Well, it says the coil cannot function as a loudspeaker. So Electroboom. I thought it needed a loudspeaker, but maybe I was wrong. It seems to be like going directly into the loudspeakers. Wattmatone. Oh, I know that one. That one's awesome. I was thinking about getting it. I think in the case of the Wattmatone, the loudspeaker is actually inside of the... Oh no, let's actually listen to Giorno's theme. I can't actually see it being played. There we go. I can't see that ball being played either. Let's tune in my favorite guy. Didn't he play the Wattemote? Well, maybe not. So... Oh, Automatone. I mean, technically, yeah, because it has a loudspeaker, I believe, built in. God, there's no speaker. It says that there's no speaker here. What? Oh god. It just controls the sound, it doesn't really produce sound. But yeah. Let's look at the kit actually. So, to do that stuff.
I'll turn the lights off. This little neon tube, so I'll put, that's actually pretty bright. What I'll do is I'll turn the lights off. it's pretty shit, but it's working.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, I have no idea. I can't find sources on the, like, not needing a loudspeaker to actually produce the sound that we hear there. But it says here that it is a speaker by itself. Okay. Anyhow, if it doesn't produce sound, or it doesn't need a loudspeaker, then it apparently isn't an electrophone, according to this definition here. But as I said, this definition like is kind of, yeah, you can criticize it. I say it's mostly functional, mostly alright. As a high school physics student, this Tesla coil stuff is a bra moment. Oof. But yeah, okay. I guess that's it. It's time for me to make some food. I'd say. Let's see. Not sure what I should eat. Probably just some spaghetti or something. We'll see. Okay. Tesla coil is loudspeaker because it requires an input. Yeah, it does. I guess you're right. Okay, this is quite difficult to answer. Kind of. But yeah, let's hope they don't ask that instruments require an input to make sound right. Touché. That's right. But yeah, it has to have like a keyboard attached to it, like a MIDI input attached to it, to work properly. But yeah, kind of. Yeah, like I said, electrophones are a difficult subject. I guess everything that's modern music related is a difficult subject, like music genres in general. Philosophical of sound. Actually, let me give you the schedule for the streams, like more streams. Next week I'm going to stream, like I got the my paper graded on Russian music and music with Russian elements in video games. So I'm going to show you that paper and going to translate it for you. And I guess I've also wanted to actually make an interactive thing where we make a musical graphic thing. So, meaning we draw it needs the phone to be plugged in. Also, it needs like musical input from that, like that mini coil at least. So yeah. Rush music is next. Probably next week. And then I have another presentation about actually I have it here prepared because I always like being on top of things. How to analyze a song from a video game, like just a few pointers. Like the presentation is only going to be 20 minutes long, so it's pretty short. It's in popular music analysis class. So yeah. And yeah, there's the making a graphical score for a graphical musical score, and then seeing how it would sound if you translate it into music. But yeah, it feels like I'm going to do more streaming than actual arrangements and piano covers now, because my schedule is pretty full until the end of the semester, so pretty much until April. So yeah, I guess that just means I'm gonna do more streams because those don't take quite as much time. Okay, that's it. Thanks a lot for listening. Have you played Death Stranding? I haven't yet, but I am thinking whether I should play it myself or watch Vinny from Vinesauce stream it, because it's quite an exploratory game, and I like exploratory games where you just walk around and look at stuff. Other people don't, I guess, but I do. Like Unique is my favorite game, so yeah, I should. We do live stream 4 weeks in a row. I might, technically, because yeah, I used to upload videos weekly, but I couldn't because I had too much to do. So I guess maybe that means that I'm going to do live streams weekly now. We'll see. But yeah, next live stream probably next Saturday again, or Friday, depends. Okay, time to end the stream. I'm hungry. I'll see you in the next stream. Oof. Goodbye.